Hello, everybody. So our apologies for the technical difficulties. Unfortunately, we were having some issues due to the snowstorm, and we couldn't make it to MIT today. But anyway, so we are now comfortable seated in my couch in my case, and I'm sure also Robert is enjoying his place as well. So we're going to be talking to you. So let me just start by introducing myself. My name is Josué Velázquez. I am the Executive Director of the Blended Program. We are going to have a session that we have prepared to discuss topics related to the application. So I'm sure that you have a lot of questions. We have received some of your questions already, so we're going to try to cover all these materials in this session. But just before jumping to the materials, Robert, if you can introduce yourself as well, please.
Yes. So hello, everybody. My name is Robert Cummings. I'm coming to you here from Boston. Today we'll be going over our slides, and I'm very happy to finally have this first contact with our future class of 2019. So I'll start with sharing my screen for our slides, and then we'll go through, and Josué will start us off. Just 1 second while I share that.
All right, excellent. So thank you, Robert. So let's just start with the outline of what we're going to be discussing in this session. So first, we're going to give a brief overview about the program. I'm sure that many of you are very much aware of this, and also you have been taking part of different sessions with Chris Kaplis and Neva Ponce about the program. So we will share with you also some of our takeaways and information, also based on the first class that we accepted last year. We will have some introductions of Robert and me, and then later we are going to go through the general questions that you've been sending, the frequently asked questions. And then later, after we cover part of the admission process and some of the materials you need to submit for the application, we will spend some time to discuss about the research project proposal. As you know, this is a key element in the program, mainly because the idea is that the students in a very short period of time are going to finish a thesis or a capstone project, right? And this part requires to have already, prior to coming to MIT, certain skills to write research and also to develop, like the concept in how you're going to apply this in situations for companies or different type of projects, right? But so this part is key for the admission process, and that's why we're going to explain a little bit more what we expect from your research proposals in this part. Then later, Robert will go through the admission timeline, and we will also discuss some parts about the career development services we provide for those that are admitted to the program prior to coming to MIT campus, and also during your stay at MIT during the spring. So for that part, we have received some questions related to the visa, the type of visa that you may use or apply for being an MIT student. So we will cover that a little bit. And then later, if you have questions, we can spend some time at the end. Still, feel free to write in the chat any questions you have. We have also in the connection other colleagues that are going to be sending these questions to Robert and me. And if you can just stop in a certain moment to discuss, we will do it. So I hope that this webinar will be very insightful for you and will incentivize you to go and apply as soon as possible. We and Robert are very much looking forward to receiving your applications. All right, so let me just go to the next slide and just show you a nice article that was published in our MIT news magazine, in which President Rafe was present to actually welcome the first class of the blended program. And this is a very important moment, not just for MIT, but also for the history of education. This is considered by many the most innovative learning experience in the world. So for the first time, a top-class university that is being for many years ranked as the best in the world is willing to give credits for students that have completed certain courses online prior to being fully enrolled as an MIT student, right? So this concept of just being willing first to grant credits, but at the same time to combine the online experience with the residential experience to try to develop all the disciplinary skills, but at the same time soft skills, so that we can, as MIT, guarantee that this student is an MIT graduate. It really reveals a lot of the innovative mindset of the university that we work on. So this part in this hybrid model, President Rafe came here and we were very excited. Of course, this part was after all the struggling and suffering to conduct this selection process, in which we receive extremely high qualified students. And we got the chance to receive applicants from almost all over the world. And at the end, the class was defined by students coming from over 20, 23, 4, 5 countries, different countries in the world. Now the students are in the middle, actually just finishing in 1 week and a half, the first half of the residential experience. After wanting to take everything, now the students are trying to manage their time better, but the experience so far, mixing themselves with the residential students that are with us, as you know, the 1-year program, now sharing between both classes and building a blended cohort for the SCM program is really exciting and inspiring for many people. So there is a lot of people looking at this program, and we really expect to attract the best students. You've been taking part of a great experience by the hand of the MicroMasters team. And now that we know the quality of that program, that part will make it easier for us also to validate your skills once we move to the next level, which is the application for the blended program. So we wanted just to show a little bit of this. There is a lot of noise, good noise, about the blended program in the world. There are other programs also starting at MIT, trying to define the blended program as well, together with the MicroMasters. We were the first one, and you are going to be also the second class in case of being admitted to take part of this great innovative experience in education. So having said that, as you know, in the next slide, Robert, if you don't mind, we show part of this experience. So you've been with us working on the MicroMasters credential, taking different courses with different levels of difficulties and applicability. But at the end, just coming 5 months with us at MIT, we should be able to grant an MIT degree. So our job at this stage is exactly prior to starting this experience, which is the application to the blended program. And for this application, we are going to try to give you all the orientation so that at the end, you're going to build a strong profile that will be attractive also for the committee that works in the admission process for the blended program. Right? Anyway, so let's just start with this. Let's continue now with questions. Right, the first questions. Well, just before jumping to that, thank you, Robert.
Oh, sorry.
Yes. So sorry, just to introduce ourselves. My name is Josue Velasquez, as I said before. I'm the executive director of the blended program. And I'm a research scientist at the MIT Center for Transportation and Logistics. So in general, my area of research is defined in 2 different topics. One that is related to sustainable logistics. So I lead this streamlined and sustainable logistics initiative. And on the other hand, supply chain management for small firms. So I do research specifically for Latin America in this topic. And I'm the lecturer of the graduate course on sustainable supply chain management at MIT. So now I will hand the introduction to Robert. Robert, can you please introduce yourself?
Yes. So students will get to know me over the next several months. I serve as the main point of contact for all of the SCMB students, support all of our operations here to make sure everybody gets on campus, and I sort of help with all the onboarding process for students. And then once you are here, I help advise on all of our MIT academic requirements. So yeah, if we want, we already have some questions that started rolling in. If we want to go over those with Josue, does that sound good?
Yep, sounds perfect to me.
Yep, so one of the first questions that came in was, could we describe a little bit more information on students who have an H1B visa, sort of what documents are needed and how that visa can be used for the program? So I think I can field that question. So the most programs at MIT require a F1 visa or a J1 visa. These are student visas. But because our program is shorter in duration, if you have approval from your host company and you're on an H1B visa or on a spouse visa that's under the H program, or there's also some L visas as well, as long as your employer or your spouse's employer approves that the visa will be valid through your entire duration of the program, they would just have to submit a letter to our International Students Office with a copy of your visa and just some financial documents to make sure that you can support yourself while you're here in the program. And with that information, you should be able to enroll in the blended program. We have had a few students who are able to take leave from their home companies to come to MIT for this 5-month experience, which is really great. So I think that that's sort of one of the benefits of the program, that if you're a working professional and you can take off that 5 months, students are able to come here. So another question we had was just about demographics, the average age of our blended class, sort of minimums and maximums. Josue, do you want to handle that one?
Sure. So, well, we have a lot of details on this, and I just want to make sure that you don't feel that if you are not in these ranges, that means that you are not eligible to apply, right? So one thing is what we have already accepted, but this is completely open to any countries, any age, any profile, any background, etc. Right? So, but in general, we have, correct me please, Robert, if I'm wrong, but we should have around 12% of female, 88% males, 30% coming from the US, approximately 70% from different countries. These countries from the over 20 different countries, if I'm not mistaken. The age should be around 33, right? Average. So minimum and maximum, it will be hard to say, but the average should be around 33, right, Robert?
Yes. Yeah, and we have, the blended program has a slightly higher average age because most of our students are coming more from a professional background, so they may have a little bit more experience. So maybe on average, like 2 or 3 years older than our residential class.
That is correct. And also, as you are just saying, Robert, the working experience as well, right? Working experience is higher than the regular residential class.
Yeah.
So I see that there are also other questions related to the proposal, the research proposal. So we will cover that in the webinar. So I will hold that question. And if you're okay, Robert, we'll start with
So now we'll go on.
Go ahead, please.
Yep, so now we will cover some basic application facts and sort of walk through the basic application system. Oh, sorry, and the admissions criteria. So as you have all seen from our website and from partaking in the MicroMasters, we require performance on all 5 online SCX courses and the CFX exam. So you received all of our emails because you passed this exam, or you're joining now because you're just getting some more information about the program. Some other basic requirements that we have are the IELTS or TOEFL, so that we can assess your English. We have our minimum set at 100 for the TOEFL or 7 for the IELTS. We also extend waivers quite readily to applicants who have a background in English, particularly if you have your degree from an English-speaking nation, or if you have some extensive experience speaking in an English-speaking country for work experience. So for all of those sort of things, you can select the waiver, send us an email if you have any more specific questions. We usually get quite a bit on that one. Yep. Another important component for the application is the research project, which we will get into later in the webinar. Josue will cover. The video statement is also a very important component, as it allows us to see sort of your research interests and how you can compose yourself in a short 3 to 5 minute video to explain why you want to come to MIT and sort of what you're looking for, what you're looking to get out of our program. It's a really insightful measure that our program uses Only a handful of programs at MIT use video statements. Our Sloan School of Management is another one, and I think they're very helpful for our reviewers. Then we'll go over, you'll have your resume, which we evaluate based off of your work experience and to see what sort of supply chain background you have. And then we'll also have your letters of recommendation. These usually cover one academic source and one work source. Depending on how far out you are out of school, we understand that you would have more professional recommendations, just as long as there are strong recommenders who can really attest to your skills and how that can be applied to our program. And then the last part is your undergraduate transcript, which we use just to get a better sense of your background. Let's see, there were just a few questions that came in about the TOEFL.
Go ahead, Robert.
Yep, so if you can't apply to take the TOEFL before the application, send us an email. If you have a strong background in English, we may be able to give you a waiver, but it will really be on a case-by-case basis. If we really feel that you do need one of these measurements, we could extend the TOEFL for you to take it after the deadline and review based off of other materials. So I think that covers the TOEFL question. Now we'll move on to the application. So for the application, the main portal to get there is through our website. There's the big apply button. Also with the basic requirements that we just went over, also listed on our website. So when you click on that apply button, it will send you to the grad apply system. In true MIT fashion, we built our own admission system because we didn't like how other vendors' systems were. So ours, as you can see, is pretty basic and has some simple steps for you to go through to submit your application. One thing to keep in mind is that the blended application is separate from our residential application and the scale network applications. So if you've applied to our residential program or the Zlog program in Zaragoza, Malaysia, those applications are stored separately and reviewed by different committees. So you will have to create a new one here on this website. The basic application deadline is listed here, April 6th, and then we have all of the components of the application to go through. We'll just highlight a few of the most important ones or the areas to keep in mind. Also keep in mind that there may be a few text updates made within the next 2 weeks or so, just to clarify the language and make it a little bit easier to navigate. Yep, so first we have the application information.
Sorry, Robert, just a question related to the minimum overall percent score required for the CFX.
Oh, yes.
So just to say that there is no minimum required. So if you have earned the MicroMasters credential, you can apply for the blended program.
Yes, that is very true. So yeah, if you've earned it, you can apply, and the percentage you received on your exams and your classes, that's just one of the many factors that we evaluate during the admissions process. So in order to apply, the very first step on that application information page is to select the SCMB program. In here, this is one of the things we'll update to clarify. It only mentions the Master of Applied Science, but as you've seen from our website, students may be eligible to take either the Master of Applied Science or the Master of Engineering. The Master of Applied Science requires a capstone project, report that's done usually with a consultation with a company, whereas the Masters of Engineering requires a much more extensive thesis project that has like a strong academic background done with our researchers here on campus. We assess that later on after the class is already selected. So for the application purposes, you would just select this option. You can start thinking about which option you would want to pursue. But then during the summer and the onboarding process, we would really nail down your projects and make sure that you're choosing the correct degree for your interests. So for, oh, yep, go ahead.
Oh, thank you, Robert. I just wanted to stress out a little bit more about the difference between the Master of Applied Science and the Master of Engineering. So the main distinction, as Robert just said, is a research project. So Master of Engineering is the thesis, Master of Applied Science is the capstone. Now, the difference is quite related to the question that we just received related to the research proposal. So somebody was asking if the idea was to go to more in depth in terms of the practical approach, or the applicant should go for some sort of proposal more related to an academic or research contribution, right? Scientific contribution. So this is a key question depending on what you want to pursue. So if you are thinking in a Master of Engineering, you should stress out in your research proposal what would be the academic contribution, and it's expected that you will elaborate more about the literature review, how your project will fill a gap in the scientific community because of certain projects or things that you have observed, while in the other case is mostly related in the capstone to solving a problem for a company, right? Or for an NGO or for another organization. So you have more like the applied contribution is higher in that case than the scientific contributions. And that part is still expected that you will work on literature review and research, but the other part will make like the final decision if you have completed the project correctly or not. Now, keep in mind this: if you feel attracted to a Master of Engineering, like to pursue a thesis, in this case, we take into account your research experience, right? So if you have already earned a Master's of Science degree before, or you hold a PhD degree, or you have written academic papers, well, this is a strong evidence that suggests you can finish a thesis, a master's thesis in some months, right? But if you don't have this experience, we strongly encourage you to pursue the Master of Applied Science, right? So we will get more time to discuss this later, but it's important that in your research proposal, you can state this different. Like Master of Applied Science is for those candidates that are more interested in pursuing an industry career. So they want to come here and they want to go back to their companies, work on different projects. So they will develop more skills related to this type of programs or projects they will be doing for their futures. While in the case of the Master of Engineering, it's mostly for those that are interested in maybe pursuing a PhD degree or an academic degree or something like this. So keep this in mind when you're working on in the selection for sure, but at the same time on your research proposals, right? This is gonna be a key element to decide what you're gonna be emphasizing more in your proposal or not. Right?
Yep. Okay, so we will go on to some more components of the application, the colleges and universities. So you should be sure to enter your undergraduate information here. There's always quite a few questions about transcripts. So for the application purposes, you would only need to include your unofficial transcripts. It should be sort of in a transcript form that you can upload to the application. If you're admitted, we will require some further documentation to just verify that your degree and make sure that you have sort of the background. Yep.
Excellent.
For resumes in your work experience, so this is just a quick snapshot of that section. Be sure to upload a copy of your resume so that we can assess your work experience. Further down on this page, there is also a question where you will be asked your overall work experience and your SCM work experience. So this is useful for us to make sort of a basic assessment of what your background is. Here we also have the language exams. If you've taken the IELTS and the TOEFL, you can include your scores here. For both of those, you should also send the official scores to MIT so we can have that sort of verified copy. As I mentioned, our current waiver criteria are specific for your undergraduate degree and your primary and secondary English. But if you don't meet these exact criteria, but you still have strong work experience in an English-speaking country, or you have a master's degree from elsewhere that was taught in English, we will consider both of those as for the waiver requirements as well. So don't hesitate to apply if you're concerned that you don't meet those backgrounds. Now, one of the most important sections is to list your MIT-X, SCX subjects, and your CFX exam. Although we have access to everybody's information, our systems are sort of dispersed, so we want to make sure that you enter your course information here so that our committees can review the applications all in one place. We will be verifying all of this information to make sure that what you list here is correct with the MicroMasters team. But yeah, this is just a great way for us to get that information quickly loaded. There is a question here that if you'll get your MicroMasters, obviously you have all done it. This was a question that was geared towards last year. So we'll probably be removing that. But for now, just click yes, of course. You will and have already received your MicroMasters. Let me see. I have just a quick question here. Do we need transcripts to be translated in English? Yes. Although we do have a very diverse team of committee members, so Spanish shouldn't be a problem, but most other languages we do need an English copy. If you don't have to get a verified version of the transcript at this point, you can provide your own translation for the review process. And then when we require the official after a student is admitted, then we'll want sort of that verified copy. Let's see if we have another question here. So Josue, it looks like we have a... Oh, sorry. No, I think that's all for the questions about...
Yeah. No, I see one question related to the if I found a company, the company is the sponsoring company for my project, do I need a letter or document? Yes. Well, no, we are not asking for that, but of course it's extremely desirable to have the full support of the company for the project. So later, if the project is selected, then we are going to be requesting to sign an NDA. It's more for the protection of the company than for MIT, right? But apart from that, we don't need it at this time. Just make sure that you have the support of the company once you write the name of the company in the research proposals. Now, there is an important element in that part. You submit a research project proposal, but at the end, many of these projects are going to be developed. I mean, those that are selected in teams, two-person teams. And therefore, some of the projects will not be selected. So this may happen. So you can go with the company, you can say, let's work on this. But at the end, it could happen that the project was not selected for different reasons. And then the project, is put apart. And then the student is assigned to work on a different project. So this may happen. So at the end, of course, we are going to take into account the commitment of the company, the data. But at the end, the most important thing is the problem statement, the research question, how relevant is the problem or the topic, all these things, and also to assess the skills. So this is one of the main elements in this part to make the assessment if the project, if the research proposal shows that the candidate has skills, sufficient skills to finalize a research project in the limited amount of time. Right. So just keep that in mind when you are working on the commitment. So try to be appealing in the research proposal, but at the end, it could happen that the project might not be selected. Right. So with this disclaimer, I guess we can move on.
Yep. And I think we just have one more application-related question. Somebody asked if Malaysia or possibly our other programs in Luxembourg might have blended options. We are actively discussing that right now. So if once the Malaysia option is finalized, there should be information listed on our website as soon as next week. So we'll have more information on that. But yes, you can expect a Malaysia option to be available very soon.
Excellent.
Yep. So I think we can move on to the research project now with Josue.
Let me just make a quick comment on the working experience. So somebody was asking, does this count if I work when I was studying, or everything counts? So just list it in your resume. There is also another comment related to the topic of having working experience on humanitarian logistics. This is great. As you know, we have a humanitarian response lab at the center. So everything that is related to working experience, we make an assessment of working experience in general and also working experience on supply chain management and logistics. And of course, it's expected to have this. I mean, more experience you have on this builds more chances for your application. Right? So having said that, I will now move to the research project discussion. So I have already mentioned some key elements on this. Let's just continue with this, Robert. If you can share the next slide, please.
Yep.
So in terms of the research project, there are key elements there. So I usually I'm not a big fan of having a lot of bullets in the slides, but this was something really that we needed to stress out like this. So you can see in the sentences exactly what we expect that you will have in the proposal, and all those words that are in bold are key elements. So let me go through this. The project needs to be practical and relevant. Right? That means somebody needs to have this problem, and somebody's having a pain. Right? This is like when you are building your business models and you try to build your company. So who has this pain? So that is one of the key questions to assess how relevant is the problem. And always ask yourself. So define your research question, define your problem, and then say, well, why is this relevant? And then arguing about figures, about companies, about other people losing something because this problem is still not solved completely. That brings more arguments. So why this is important, right? Of course, if you are working now on a thesis in this case, or you are expecting to do a thesis instead of a capstone, then in that part, you should also stress out from the scientific contribution. Why is this relevant from the scientific point of view? Now, the second is the project is performed with a sponsoring company, NGO, government agency, trade association. We said this already. If we don't have a partner, that may imply that the problem maybe is not relevant. If we have also saying that if you don't have anybody willing to pay for it, maybe it's not really a big deal what you're solving, right? So always ask these questions. Is the company willing to do it? Why? Well, because maybe the company also sees this as an important problem, right? So keep that in mind. The sponsoring companies or the NGO government is some important element for your research proposal. The other point, the project usually requires 9 months, right? This is very extremely important. 9 months, sometimes even more, for the residential students. So we have, as you know, the 1-year program. So the first weeks, once the students in the residential are at MIT, they do the selection of the projects and they start working on the fall on the project. Now for the blended, well, we need to also do some work in the fall. So this is important that you know this. Once you apply for the program, and if you are accepted or you are admitted and then you accept the offer, then make sure that you allocate time in the fall to work on this, because this pre-work is going to really save a lot of suffering and struggling once you are in the spring with us, right? If you do not do the pre-work, 5 months to finish this and also take full advantage of all the interesting courses, workshops, and adventures we have in the residential experience is going to be extremely challenging for you. So all the pre-work that you can do will really help to succeed in the best possible way once you are at the MIT campus. So we will talk about this later. Once we have the class and we also have like the projects that are going to be selected, we will give you more guidance on this topic later. The other point is the applicants must submit a 2-page description. So you cannot just write a proposal, comprehensive proposal that is 20-page long, but instead it's very brief. So we are going to give you some guidance with some questions, but it should be 2-page description. And last year I received also questions of, can it be 3, can it be 4? Well, where you're saying 2-page description. So try to align with this as much as you can. We are expecting around 1,000 words, right? And in this part, just follow the guidelines we will provide. So after this webinar, we will also have some PDF files that will give you also guidance on this stuff to write your research proposal. And at the end, keep in mind that, well, you are applying, right? So you also, apart from the fact to be feasible and be clear in the motivations, try to impress the review committee. and convince them that this is a project that you can really finalize in the time being. So the program is very short. So if you have a scope of the problem that is, I just want to solve all supply chain in the world, that will not be very convincing to show that you're going to finish this in let's say the 5 months in the residential experience and also the pre-work in the fall. So try to have something very doable, applicable, and also catchy and interesting that the committee will say, this is a great project. I would like to bring this candidate to CTL or to MIT to also work on this type of topics, right? So,
and yes. Josue, it looks like we have. Sorry.
Yes, no, go ahead, please.
Oh, can you lower your volume? Or
yeah, you speak too loud, right?
No, it's just I can hear my own voice on your computer. But anyways, can you comment on the confidentiality and sort of the data commitments or any obligation to publish the research that is gathered by these projects?
Can I let me just read it again. Can I commit on confidentiality of data points which are pretty advanced? Yeah. Well, we are too advanced, right? So this is not the type of questions we have at this point, but I believe it's interesting to comment a little bit on this. So the research projects are working in partnership with the sponsoring company, but the company is not the owner of the IP of the project, right? So this is very important. That means while the managerial implications of the project are still, the ownership is within MIT domain, all the information, all the analysis, all the stuff are given to the company. Now, the company has two options. Either the company wants to say, I don't want to disclose my figures, numbers, and name, and therefore what we do is that what we publish in our website is like a made up data, and we just sanitize all the information we can, so that we still provide the managerial implications, but we do not disclose any information from the company. Or there is the company say, no, I want to disclose my information. That is great. Or the company say, I want to disclose my information and also want to show that was with my name and my brand that we did this thesis. So there are different reasons. So there are really, like, for instance, one of our strategic, it's corporate partners. It's one of our corporate partners is C.H. Robinson, for instance. They usually disclose their name in the thesis, but there are others, and I will not mention, they do not disclose this. Right. So it depends on the company. Just keep this in mind. At the end, the students at MIT will not show any information that the company doesn't want to show. But the insights are not property of the company, right? Because in this work, it's an educational initiative that we are working in partnership to build together. Right?
Okay.
Did I answer the question?
Yeah.
All right, so that's it, right? With the company when approaching, then I am, okay, great. I don't know, I think I have responded already. Yep. So let's go to the next slide, Robert, please.
Yep.
But then when you said about my lower my voice was just to hear yours. It's not because I'm very loud. If I'm very loud, just write it in the chat.
No, it was just so I could hear my voice.
Okay, fantastic. All right, yep. Excellent. So what should be included in the research proposal? Okay. These are the main guidelines. So we will show this information it's still in a PDF file that we will upload to the website. But here, just keep that in mind. We need the statement of the research question. So try to think, what is the question that you want to answer? And the answer is your hypothesis, which is what you're going to be doing, right? So what you're expecting to have as a result of your research. But in order to start saying, I want to build a network optimization to define the configuration of facilities and distribution center, to work on this and that, always ask why you're doing that. What is the problem that you have? And then try to go steps behind so that you define, this is the question. The question that I want to solve is, what is the effect of considering Ecoterms like this in the network flow for companies in the cement industry, right? And these type of questions, it's like, okay, so this is the question, how you're going to solve it, right? So take some time in defining this research question, and this is going to lead you to the problem statement. Now, next, who has this question? It's very important to have like the customer or the client of your question. You need to define also the scope of the project. So as I said before, you cannot just solve everything like in a broader perspective. You need to make sure that you have a feasible scope for your problem. At the end, you're going to have still a discussion with the advisor. Assuming your project is selected again, given that the scenario, you're going to discuss with the advisor, and then you can change a little bit the scope of the project. But now it's important that you also make an assessment of what are the things that should be included there, and what are the things that you should just exclude for this project, for your research project in this case. What is the methodology that you're going to be using? And in terms of the methodology, it refers also of defining the steps in how you're going to validate what you're doing. What is the type of modeling that you may be using? Could be mathematical modeling, could be statistical analysis, could be clustering analysis, could be data analytics, could be a combination. So having the clarity how you're going to use, well, of course, the data, and also how this is going to help to answer your research questions. This is key also for the research proposal. Then, therefore, of course, if you have the clarity of the methodology of the information that you intend to create, then you're going to have also clarity of the type of data that you need to do this or to conduct those analyses. So, what is the data that you're going to require, and try to make it clear. This is the type of information I'm going to be using for this. Where the data is going to come from, right? So they're going to be data maybe shared by the company, or the data is going to be maybe available in the web, or some of the data you even are considering to collect in some moment. So all these things are important also to have the clarity in your proposal. The analysis that are going to be done, this is like a consequence of having like the right methodology with the right data. Then what is the type of managerial implications that you are planning to obtain by conducting those analyses? And then you also mentioned like who is the sponsoring company, as we said before, who will engage with you during this project. So usually what we do is that the students have weekly or bi-weekly calls with the company, so that you always keep in mind in your analysis that this should be useful for the organization, for the sponsoring company, right? So you have like these weekly calls, bi-weekly calls, meetings also with your advisor, but at the end there should be some contact person from the sponsoring company that will engage during the whole process, right? The last question, how will they engage with you? So this is also very important. Who is going to be the contact person as well? So some cases, you are working on the company, you define your own project, you say this is going to be great. Once you come to MIT, then there is no contact person because you are now at MIT. And then therefore it's critical to also define a leader from the company that will be also engaging with the team in case this project is selected, right? All right, so that will be all. I don't know if is there any questions, Robert?
No, I don't see any questions on this part. As the viewers can see, the research proposal is a very key part of the application, so make sure to spend some time on that. Yes, excellent. I see now one question. Can I use a problem I am trying to solve at work as my research project? Could be if your problem complies with what I just mentioned, for sure. That could work. Just make sure, and maybe this is a good time also to mention this. Make sure first that you have a contact person there that is going to be engaging with the company. I'm sorry, with the team, with you, and maybe a partner to work on the project, right? And the second point here is just keep in mind that you're going to be at MIT, right? If some of you still think that you can come here and still work in distance for the company or keep some level of engagement, this is going to be extremely challenging. So that is something that you should not consider. Make sure that you get all the authorization and support from the company to come and enjoy the experience of MIT. Just a tiny footnote that came to mind with this question. All right, so more questions. Is if the company is the sponsoring company? Yeah, I answered that already, yep. I believe. All right. Okay, so next. Yeah, let's go to the next. Yeah, so this is just the general guidelines, what works, what doesn't work. So this is mainly taken from the experience, mainly from the residential students, actually. So they're going to get more once we finish also with the blended students with this class to get also some input about the research project. But this is the experience of a program that has been there for many, many years and being the first
in its class, almost like 7 years in a row, being the best program in the world on supply chain management, which is now also the blended program. But in general, the students enjoy or are very good at the things that are now in this left column, right? So everything related to data analytics, problems related to logistics, transportation, optimization, simulation, scenario planning, so like quantitative tools in general. Still, you can have case study evaluation, topics related to risk management, inventory management. This is just guidelines, right, of the type of projects that we do, and you can actually find examples of these projects, at least the executive summaries and posters, in our website, in CTL website. So if you go to ctl.mit.edu and you check publications and you go to thesis, then you can find the type of projects we advise and the students do, and are going to be mostly related to this type of analysis topics and tools. Right? Others that we tried in the past were related to do benchmarking, right? So you are in your company, the company says, now that you're going to MIT, and I hear that actually CTL has 60 or 70 corporate partners that are top in the world. It would be great to have some benchmark and conduct a survey with them and do this stuff. This usually doesn't work. Right, and mainly because it requires also the involvement of many other companies, and it's not clear exactly how it's gonna build the contribution. So there are many drawbacks and challenges that at the end, in the past, has led us to change the scope of the project, and sometimes even to have a new project for the students that were working on this in the first stage. So try to avoid this type of analysis. The best practices, just industry surveys in general. Working in future visioning. Well, we always try to work on problems that are going to define or shape the future of logistics and supply chain management. Just to think in something that is going to happen in 10, 20, 30 years, and you don't have a sponsoring company that is really willing to invest on this, that sets an alarm in our case, because this is maybe not applicable at this stage. And remember that one of the key elements of the blended program is to prepare students to go back and apply their knowledge, right? So those type of analysis, we do not encourage this type of projects in our students, right? Anyway, so I will not spend more time on this. I believe we have talked enough about the research projects. If you still have more questions, we will still upload all this information in the slides. And also we are going to upload some guidelines in terms of the research project proposal, right? So as Robert said, this is a key element. Still, the rest are really important. The video is also a great element to get to know you more, and also the recommendation letters, your working experience. So we will really do a comprehensive review of your applications, and once we see potential, we will make sure that also you are proposing something that you can finish on time.
Yep. Okay. So we'll go on to the next slide. The admissions timeline and sort of what you can expect from April on all the way until the arrival of the program. So here we'll share with you some key dates to keep in mind. So as you've seen from our website, the application deadline is April 6th. We have had some comments on the fact that this application deadline moved up. That is both to match the CFX exam, which was much earlier this year in February. So now we are hoping to get on a more spring cycle, which will give us more time to work with applicants over the summer. So yep, April 6th is our application deadline. May 15th is when we are committed to sending out decisions to all of the applicants to our program. Then on June 15th, so everybody has around 30 days to consider the acceptance offer, pay the deposit, and for international students, submit proof of funding. So this is just sort of a gauge that we need in order to make sure that international students can come to MIT. Because there are financial requirements in order to get a US visa, we want to make sure that you're taking that into consideration early on, so that if you cannot, then unfortunately you wouldn't be able to come. We will be posting our updated tuition and a guide for expenses within the next few weeks. So well before this date, you'll know the exact cost of attending. Then in early July, we are planning to do our first onboarding webinar. Once we have the full class set, we will go over the program more in depth and sort of the expectations between that point and all the way until your arrival. Then in early August, we will start setting the stage for your capstone or thesis projects, which will include a much more extensive proposal of your projects. And maybe Josue, if you want to comment just on that little component.
Yeah, I believe I mentioned enough on this, but yeah, we will give you also some guidance on this. We will give you more information to shape the project again, and we will have a round of selection, and those projects that are selected will be offered to you, and you may get also the chance to see the projects that other classmates are proposing, and also to select some of them. So we will have an interesting session in that part related to the capstone projects. But it's also important, it says capstone project webinar. This is because mainly 90% of the class will go for the capstone project, which makes much more sense for the type of future professional future the classmates would like to pursue. So keep that also in mind.
Yep. And it looks like we just have one question as we're going through the deadlines. How will the decisions be announced? They will be sent via email to the email address you provide, and we will also try to post the decisions directly into your application, which is a feature that we now have. So for the most part, you should just be on the lookout for emails, and they will, you'll see them on that date. So now, once we move out of the summer and into the fall term, international students will be able to apply for their student visas in early October. And then between September through December, we will have pre-work project assignments that you would do remotely. We'll have webinars along the way to sort of guide you to make sure that you're really prepared to hit the ground running once you start in January. Our current schedule will have the blended program orientation start on Monday, January 7th. That will be an intensive week-long orientation program where we have lots of activities, projects for you to work on, sort of getting a good understanding of where you are on your research projects, and then also some fun ways to engage with the residential students, so that since that will be the first time that both classes will be together. Then the following week, starting January 14th, will be the 3-week-long Scale Connect conference that will take place here on MIT's campus, where all of our partner institutions have their students come to MIT for very engaging topics, seminars, workshops, lectures, all in the field of supply chain and logistics. So that is tentatively scheduled for January 14th. We're still finalizing that since it's almost 10 months away. So once that information is available, we'll always communicate. Let's see, there was one question that came up. Can admissions be deferred? No, at this point, we are not considering deferrals just because it's still early on in our program. We don't want to limit ourselves based off of the deferrals and have large classes be shifted to one term or the next. So for now, if you are applying for 2019, you should plan to enroll in 2019. That doesn't mean that you can't apply and just to get a sense of it, but for the most part, yes, we do not extend deferrals at this time.
Let me just comment on that, Robert. Also, one of the main reasons, apart from what you just said, is that the quality of the applicants is extremely high, because all of you already earn a MicroMaster's credential from MIT. And therefore, we want to keep the same chances for everybody that is finishing the CFX every year, right? So every year we will have more students also with very high skills that we would like to attract for the program, and doing deferrals may take away other opportunities for other candidates as well. Right? So keep that in mind, and hopefully you will be encouraged to apply as soon as possible.
Yes. So yep, just a quick summary of what we just went over. The decisions will be sent out by email on May 15th. You'll have just about 1 month to accept. Our deposit for the program is $2,500 US to accept the offer. We'll also include sort of a brief survey so that you'll be able to provide all of these points before June 15th. And as I mentioned, the proof of funding for international students only, which will be, you'll also have to keep in mind, so that proof of funding is sort of for our internal use, but by the time you are applying for your student visa, you will need those official documents ready to go so that you can send them to our international students office, because they will need your official funding documents in order to issue your visa. So although it is sort of our internal request, it will be used later on in October when you apply for the visa. Let's see, there was one more question that came in. Will projects be assigned / selected before working? Yes, so during those summer webinars in July and August, we'll sort of do the overview of all the projects and get an assessment from all the projects that are available and make those assignments both with the students' input and sort of our input on the feasibility of the projects. Everybody will be assigned before you start working any further in the fall. So that will be clarified.
Let me just add a little bit on that. So for sure, it's going to be like the ones you're going to be working on the project per se. But before, you still are going to be required to work on your proposal. It could be that at the end, you're working on the proposal, trying to get more sense of the information. We will give you a template and still working on this. And it could be that at that stage, still the project is not selected. So you need to do some pre-work still for the proposal. And then later we will have the bidding system to do the assignment. Once the assignment is done, you're going to be officially working on your research project.
Yeah. And let's see, there was one more question that came in on how long a person has to apply after completing the CFX. So yes, it is currently 3 years. So you have 3 years to apply. As always, we would strongly suggest that if you're ready to go, you should apply earlier on, because there's the pool of applicants is smaller at this early stage in the program. So if you're waiting until the 3-year deadline, we're going to have many more applicants who are also interested in applying. But yes, you do have 3 years to apply. Yep. One more question that came in. What is required as proof of funding? So this, we have pretty extensive notes on our website that explain the proof of funding. Usually this includes bank statements. If you're having support from a company, it'll include the letter from the company. If you have private support, like from a family member, we'll also need a letter from them saying that they're willing to support you. But yeah, for the most part, it should be pretty legitimate financial documents from your own accounts or letters of support if you have sponsors that are contributing to your education. Yep, so I think with that, we can move on to the last section of this, the career services and support. Let's see. Yep, so Josue, do you want to go ahead and cover that section?
Sure, of course. So there are there is a special department that works at the SCM program that provides support in terms of career development, and they will be taking care of you once you are here in the campus. But there are two things that are important to mention here. Well, in terms of the support, just once you are part of the class, you have been selected, but still we are in the fall, and you still are not fully enrolled as an MIT student. At that stage, what we can do is help you to have your resumes and information about your profiles in our resume book. So we have, as you know, like the Scale network, different centers all over the world, centers in Colombia, in Zaragoza, in Malaysia, in Ningbo, in Luxembourg, and of course the Center for Transportation and Logistics at MIT. So all these centers, we have students that are enrolled in graduate programs, and we have a profile book in which all of them are taking are posting their profile information and resumes, and we share this with our corporate partners or our network. So your profile is included there. It will be included there in the fall. But this is the only thing we can do at that stage. You cannot officially take part of other activities because your time as a residential student will officially start in January, as Robert already mentioned in the timeline. But once you are in the campus, you will get everything, all the support we can provide in terms of coaching, how to receive, how to write an appealing CV resume, how to be prepared for interviews. So we get a lot of activities and a lot of interest from the industry, and it's expected that you're going to get chances to be in interviews during that period. So we will have an officer from career development that is going to be helping you in all of these things, and also different services that are provided in this website, many other things. Right? But again, all of this is once you are accepted. So this is just to give you a glimpse on the information that you may get later if you are admitted to the program. But for now, I believe it's good to get an idea of what is expected once you are accepted to the program. So maybe if we go to the next slide, because the other interesting point here is related to the visa status. Right. So if you share the next slide, Robert, please. So in that part, as you know, programs in the US, once the students are at least in 2 terms, they say like 1 year, but could be like in our case, a 10-month program. Students that are enrolled in this type of programs, international students, they get something that is called the OPT or STEM. And while I'm not the greatest expert on this topic, what we are providing in this case is opportunity for companies in the US to hire students or to hire professionals that finish these type of programs, and they get a certain time or chance to apply for a working visa, right, or sort of like that. So you get like from 1 to 3 years after graduation, and you don't need to be sponsored this yet. So the company gets the chance to get to know the candidates, and in some moment also to apply for the H1B visa. Now, this is key, and I will hand it to you, Robert, just to explain this very well. That is related to those students that are currently working in the US and they already have a working visa. So what happens with them?
So I think that question came up pretty early on. So if you are fortunate enough to already have your H visa or L visa, you will be able to keep it as long as you are in consultation with your company to sort of get that approval and get the letter confirming that that your visa will be valid and in status for the duration of the program here at MIT. And that if there are any other conditions, usually you'll have to return back to your company after you complete the program. So that's a pretty standard condition. Other things to keep in mind, I believe that 5-month leave of absence still gets taken out of your H visa balance. So keep that in mind, that it is still contributing towards the amount of time you were granted. So yeah, those are sort of the basic things to keep in mind. Any sort of spouses can also remain on the visa as well. Or if you are on a sort of H2 or L2 visa, you can enroll in the program as well. We've had those scenarios. So yep, just keep that in mind. And it looks like we had just a question about career services. Since this is the start of the program, we just have our first cohort now. We don't have any reports available yet, but by the summer we should have a more extensive outlook on sort of the employment rates of the students. I think we are expecting that the students should be well equipped to find jobs both here in the US or returning to their companies yeah, unfortunately, at this point, we don't have those statistics available.
Yes.
Yep.
There is another question that says about the pre-work.
Yes.
The pre-work expected to be done in teams too. That is correct. The pre-work related to the research project, right? So it's expected to be done in teams.
Mm-hmm. So yep, I think we can go on to our last slide. If there are any other questions that have come up, I think for the most part, the questions have been flowing in as we've been speaking. So I think we were able to cover quite a few of them as they came up. But if there are any others, you can feel free to send them in now. And if not, I think we can start wrapping the webinar up. As Josue mentioned, this webinar and the slides will be posted onto our website, onto the SCMB homepage so that you can review. We'll also make some updates to include more information about the research proposal for the students. And as always, if there are questions along the way, I think the last slide here, you can always email the scmb@mit.edu. So those emails go to Josue and I. We're always happy to answer questions along the way and sort of provide clarification, because if you have a question, it's likely others do too. It looks like there was one more question. Can we have access to the profiles of the current students? Yes, on our website under, actually, I don't have it memorized, but on our website, we do have all of the residential and blended program profiles available. And yes, as somebody pointed, you can see the resume book for our current cohort online as well.
Excellent. Okay, Robert, but I believe we have covered everything. No more questions, if I understand correctly. So, will this be posted on YouTube? Yes, it will be. It will be available, and we will share the link later so that you can go back also to see the materials. Still, all the slides are going to be available in our website. But let me just then take a pause now. Let me just say thank you all for all your attention and all the questions. We are really excited about having started this admission process, and we really look forward to receiving your applications. And if you have any further questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to us through our general email, scmb@mit.edu. But you can also reach out to us directly in our email. So mine is, I have two, Josue, like JOSUEVM@mit.edu, or just my first name, JOSUE@mit.edu. And Robert, I don't know yours by memory, but should be what? Robert C?
Robert RC. Yeah.
RC, correct, @mit.edu. But anyway, so if you send also the email to SCMB, Robert and I receive also the email as well. So, well, that will be all. Thank you very much for your attention. And I don't know, Robert, if you would like to say final words?
No, I think that's all. And we will, yeah, if there's any other questions, just let us know. Okay, so I think we will close it down now. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Bye.